I'm Erin Kerry, the host of Sparking Wholeness, and I want to break down some basics of gut health today. Sometimes it's helpful to just go back to the basics because one discovery that completely changed the way that I view my health and my healing journey is gut health. Learning how to care for my gut transformed not only my physical health, but also my mental health. 12 years ago, maybe 12 and a half years ago, 13 years ago. The phrase gut health was barely on my radar. I thought probiotics were only something you took after antibiotics. But now we know, especially now we have more research than ever, that the gut affects far more than digestion. The health of your gut microbiome, which is your ecosystem of living bacteria that lives in your digestive tract, influences immunity, hormones, inflammation, energy, your skin health, and even, maybe especially, your mood. Looking back, I can see how much my own story connected to this from a young age. I was on antibiotics, like a lot of antibiotics. I was on steroids a lot for my asthma. And I was on quite a few medications that can disrupt gut balance. I was prescribed an SSRI when I was only 15 years old. And we know now that can cause issues with the gut microbial balance as well. I dealt with intense sugar cravings from a very young age, yeast issues, symptoms I didn't understand at the time. I didn't even realize that I had classic gut symptoms, IBS type of symptoms related to trauma until recently when I was looking through an old journal that I wrote in fifth grade, talking about how I was home from school again because of my stomach issues. And we went to the doctor because we didn't know what was going on with my stomach. So add in just basic genetics, right? Stress that I was exposed to. And of course, I already mentioned it, but trauma. This all created a perfect storm because it is all connected. So today I want to give you a brief overview of gut health, including what is leaky gut or enhanced intestinal permeability, how your gut impacts your mental health, and then my 5 tips for healing, which might be different from what you have heard before. All right. So just starting off with the basic of basics, our bodies contain trillions of microorganisms. Many live inside the digestive tract where they help regulate digestion, immunity, and communication with the brain. This system is sometimes called the second brain because of the constant messaging between the gut and the nervous system. It's also known as the enteric nervous system. When beneficial bacteria are thriving and the gut lining is strong, things tend to run smoothly. But when harmful microbes overgrow, inflammation rises, or sometimes the gut barrier becomes irritated and intestinal permeability can increase. Many people know this as leaky gut. This means that the protective barrier of the intestines becomes more permeable than it should be, allowing unwanted particles to interact with the immune system. This can trigger inflammatory responses throughout the body, and inflammation doesn't just stay in the gut. Research continues to explore links between inflammation and symptoms like anxiety, depression, brain fog, fatigue, skin issues, immune dysfunction. Mental health is never only in your head. It is deeply connected to the whole body. The gut also plays a major role in neurotransmitter production. Much of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, and nutrients required for dopamine production depend on digestion and absorption. If digestion is impaired, nutrient status can suffer and the brain can feel it. Bacterial imbalance is not the only contributor. Chronic stress can alter digestion, slow motility, reduce stomach acid, and change the microbiome. Yes, just stress, emotional stress can change your microbiome. It's not always just about the microbes. It's about what the microbes are responding to at the brain level because your microbes can communicate with your hypothalamus and your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, also known as the HPA axis. And aside from that, for sleep, highly processed foods, excess sugar, frequent antibiotics, pesticides, and modern lifestyle stressors can all contribute. So what do we do with all of this information? How do we support gut health without becoming overwhelmed? So I want to keep it simple, and I want to give you my top 5 tips for supporting your gut in a way that you can start implementing right now, today. All right. So tip number 1, address stress. This is part 1 of my book, Live Beyond Your Label. And we can't always manage stress, right? Managing stress seems like this term that we throw around as if it's like within our grasp because we can control stressors. We absolutely cannot. but we can address our stress and notice it when it pops up. We can notice how our body responds to stress, whether it's through fight mode, flight mode, which can show up as anxiety. It can be freeze mode, where we just have that paralysis, that shutdown. Because when the body is stuck in these nervous system states of fight or flight or freeze, or even fawn, which is excessive people pleasing, if you find yourself like overactivating your yes button, that can make a big impact on your stress. It can be a result of the stress that you're already experiencing, and it can create more stress. Well, that puts your body, that fight or flight state, that puts digestion on a low priority level, right? Because your body does not want to prioritize digestion if it's prioritizing survival. So if you're in that nervous system state of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, blood flow shifts away from the gut. Enzyme production can decrease and symptoms worsen because you're not able to break down your nutrients. So addressing your stress really is number one, creating space for rest and digest. And one of the most powerful tools that I've learned is breathing. Slow nasal breathing can help calm the nervous system, shift the body into a more restorative state, even when you're eating a meal. And in fact, I would say while you're eating a meal, focus on chewing, taking your time, breathing. Because again, if your body thinks that you're running from a tiger, it's not going to stop to digest food. So even just 2 to 5 minutes of steady breathing each day can really shift the trajectory of your day. I love waking up first thing in the morning, doing some breath work, doing some journaling, scripture reading. All of that tells my body that I am in a calm, regulated state from the get-go. When I start my day by opening up my phone and looking at my notifications, it puts my body in that fight, flight, activated state. So other helpful practices that can really help regulate that stress state and help you to address stress would be just walking, getting outside in nature and walking. That bilateral movement is so soothing to the brain and body. Journaling, I already mentioned that. I have an incredible set of journaling prompts that I will add in a link so that you can have access to that. It's 45 journaling prompts for mind body regulation. Super helpful. Prayer, just praying. I say just praying. Praying is an incredible tool for regulating your nervous system, and spending time outside in prayer and looking around and grounding yourself and orienting yourself can be huge. Practicing gratitude, practicing the emotion awe, AWE, and focusing on something that fills you with awe, brings you joy, can be huge for reducing momentary activations of your stress hormones. And so gentle movement is another tool for that. And then, like I already said, creating moments of stillness throughout your day. And that might not be super, I mean, that's not going to be something that we automatically think of doing. But I do know this. I do know we make transitions from day to day, like stopping at a stoplight, right? That's a transition. You can take a few breaths every time you stop at a stoplight. And anytime you get to your house, before you get out of the car, take a few deep breaths to transition. Before you go from room to room in your house, take a few deep breaths to transition. Let your body know that you are moving with intention and you're not moving out of reaction. That's another principle that I talk a lot about in my book, Live Beyond Your Label. And I think it is something that, yes, has been super helpful for me, but we also know it's an evidence-based tool to help de-stress and deactivate that stress response. Being intentional with our breath. All right. So tip number 2 is eat real food. Food does not have to be complicated. So I want you to focus on foods that nourish you and support stable energy. And these are your basics, like your veggies, your fruit. High quality protein really makes a difference. And I would say animal protein, you're going to get more bang for your buck. With animal protein, you get more protein, more nutrients, more satiety. Healthy fats will also give you a lot of satiety, but herbs, spices, make your food taste good. All of those herbs can really make an impact even on your gut, on your brain, and they make your food taste good. And fiber-rich carbohydrates that work well for your body. We're talking about the complex carbs that are in things like potatoes or in things like some of those starchier veggies like the carrots. And boy, my brain is blanking on me right now. Squashes, those kinds of things, pumpkin, those are really helpful to implement. Eating slowly, like I already mentioned, matters in a big way here. Digestion begins before food reaches your stomach. So Chewing thoroughly, sitting down to eat, staying off your phone during meals, or try to stay away from watching anything that's going to be extra stressful. This can really improve how your body handles food. Going back to veggies, veggies provide prebiotic fibers that feed beneficial bacteria. That's huge. Most people, when I do GI map testing, which we will talk about in a minute, when I do GI map testing, most people are very low on microbial strains that come from prebiotic fiber. We are not getting enough fiber. So making sure that you're eating a lot of vegetables throughout the day. A lot to me might not look like a lot to you. A lot to you might not look like a lot to me. So that's different for everybody. But make sure that I would say a good thing to aim for is that you're getting a cumulative load of 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. And that will come from veggies. That will come from things like flax seeds, chia seeds, even hemp seeds have a good amount of fiber. I think that would be a great way to start feeding that prebiotic fiber, which is not only going to help your overall microbiome, it's also going to help, if you're a female, your estrobolome, which is the ecosystem of bacteria that helps to get rid of excess estrogen, which can cause a lot of hormonal symptoms and period irregularity, things like that. Making sure that you are filling up on that nourishing prebiotic fiber, primarily from vegetables, but also from some grain sources as well. You can increase resistant starch, which is a beneficial prebiotic fiber that feeds your colon by cooking and cooling rice. You can reheat it, it's fine, but it lowers the glycemic impact. It also increases the resistant starch. You can also increase resistant starch by cooking and cooling potatoes, white potatoes in particular. That's a great way to increase that. And I love using overnight oats. Overnight oats are a great way to increase resistant starch. And then I also will add in some chia seeds and flax seeds, some protein powder. And I feel like I'm getting a lot for my gut, a lot for my brain. And then it keeps me full for a long time. Leading into fats. Healthy fats, like I already mentioned before, support satiety, which just means fullness. You're going to stay fuller for longer. And it helps to reduce those constant cravings. We demonized fat for a really long time, but fat can be so beneficial, especially for our brain health. Our cell membranes really need to be exposed to healthy sources of fat, like the omega-3 fatty acids that we are going to get mostly in fatty fish. We can get some in things like flaxseed. It doesn't always convert as well to the usable form of omega-3 that we need in our body. But we want to focus on getting those omega-3s, but then even also sources of fat like butter, if you don't have a dairy issue, coconut oil, avocado oil. Those are all really great ways to get healthy fat. And then nuts, for sure. Nuts and seeds are other ways that you can get healthy fat. Quality proteins provide amino acids needed for repair, hormones, and neurotransmitters. You're not going to make your neurotransmitters if you are not getting amino acids from protein. So we want to get high quality protein that the body can digest and absorb. I'm not talking about those Quest protein chips. Sorry, I said it, but those things drive me crazy because it's just filled with chemicals, ingredients that are very difficult for the body to break down. Whereas if you just eat a piece of chicken, steak, even like I mentioned before, if we want to talk about healthy fatty fish, I love sardines. I love sardines and tinned fish. Your body's going to absorb that way differently than if you were just going to have like a core power protein drink with the artificial sweeteners and all the gut disrupting ingredients. And then you have your Quest protein chips. Like that might taste good. It might fill you up. But if your body is struggling to digest that, and remember, a body in stress won't digest. If your body is struggling to digest that, then you might not be making all of those optimal neurotransmitters that you need to make because your body can't even digest the protein to begin with. Does that make sense? So if certain foods don't sit well with you, pay attention to that. Awareness is super powerful data. So pay attention. What works for me might not work for you. You might need more protein, less fat, more carbs. You might need more fat, more protein, less carbs. Everybody is different in what's going to feel well for them. So just the more you experiment with whole foods, the more you will notice a difference. So that is tip number 2, eat real food. Tip number 3 is out with the old, in with the new. Here's what I mean by that. Some medications are necessary and life-saving. This is my disclaimer. This is not about shame. However, it is really important to know that antibiotics, frequent NSAID use, which is things like ibuprofen, acid reducing medication, which is only supposed to be temporary use for the most part, but a lot of people get hooked on these for a very long time. Steroids, again, can be really helpful in temporary conditions. And other medications like antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication can impact the microbiome and the gut lining. So again, this is not about shame. I'm not telling anybody to hop up their medications. But if you are having gut issues, if you are having mood issues, if you have ongoing symptoms, please discuss your history, your current medications with a qualified provider, somebody who knows what these risks and side effects are. And they also know how to wean you from your current medications. That might be like looking for a unicorn, but reach out to me and I will help you as much as I can with that. So that's out with the old. And then at the same time, we want to bring in supportive healing habits. So hydration, water, so huge, good quality water, sleep, restful sleep, again, to calm the stress response, regular movement, stress reduction practices. We already talked about that. And then we can add in targeted supplements like probiotics, gut lining support, digestive support. Collagen even can be really helpful. Amino acid powders, love using that. And then anti-inflammatory nutrients. This is going to be very individualized. The key here is personalization. And so it really is important to work with somebody who is qualified to do that, who's been trained on that. Tip number 4 is to give yourself grace. This might be the most important tip of all. If learning about gut health makes you anxious, perfectionistic, or overwhelmed, pause and simplify. Stress itself, I already mentioned, can worsen symptoms. Healing does not require a perfect diet or doing everything at once. It doesn't require a perfect protocol, perfect consistency. Pick 1 or 2 things that feel doable to you right now. So maybe that's eating breakfast with more protein. Maybe you get your protein at breakfast up to like 30 grams and it's whole food-based protein. Awesome. That would be great. Maybe it's walking after dinner that will help with your gut, with your digestion. It helps with your blood sugar response. Maybe you start implementing intermittent fasting. I feel like I need to do a whole other episode on that, but that can be really helpful for people with chronic gut issues as well. Maybe you need to start your day with breath work and a breath prayer. Maybe you need to just start and ground yourself in breathing and quiet and solitude. Maybe you need to drink more water. Just pick one of those things. Your food choices are not an issue of morality, right? So if you feel like you don't have willpower, you don't have discipline, and you have all of this food noise, that is not about you as a person. It's not about your identity. It's not about being good or bad. It's truly just learning what helps your body feel safe, nourished, and supported over time. And my last tip, tip number 5, is when in doubt, test. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your body is to stop guessing. Many people are doing all of the right things and they still feel bloated, constipated, anxious, exhausted, foggy, inflamed, or stuck. And they're going from practitioner to get answers. And I've seen this with my clients. They have spent thousands of dollars trying to get answers, going to a whole bunch of different practitioners. When they came to me, they did 1 or 2 tests, got the results that they needed to make changes, and everything changed after that. So the same symptom can come from different root causes, right? This is why we often go to all sorts of different practitioners. Something like bloating, for example, might relate to low stomach acid, food intolerances, bacterial overgrowth, constipation, stress, poor motility. If somebody has loose stools, more of like on the diarrhea end of things, that might relate to inflammation, infection, malabsorption, microbiome imbalance. Even something like fatigue can be about nutrient depletions, blood sugar instability, sleep issues, stress hormones, gut dysfunction. This is where testing can be valuable, right? Because a lot of times if you have those issues, you are going to go to a different practitioner for each issue. Well, depending on the person, right, this is individual, functional lab testing might help identify what's going on under the hood and looking at my microbiome imbalances, looking at bacteria, what's high, what's low, digestive insufficiency, inflammation patterns, nutrient issues, and stress-related dysfunction. Testing isn't about obsessing over every little detail and like knocking out every little overgrowth, right? Especially when we're talking about GI map testing, which I do a lot. It's about getting clarity. So, like I said, instead of going to all these different practitioners and getting all these different types of advice and different medications for different things, you can really narrow your focus. And instead of just like throwing random medications, random supplements at random symptoms, we can create a personalized plan for your particular body, for your particular needs. So, if you have been struggling with gut symptoms, food sensitivities, fatigue, skin issues, but especially mood changes, or that like underlying sensation that something is off and you don't know what it is, this is where I come in. I'd love to help. This is the work that I do with clients. We look at your symptoms, we look at your history, your stress load, your nutrition, and when appropriate, we use testing to uncover root causes and build a realistic healing plan that's right for you, your stress levels. I do take a trauma-informed approach to coaching, which I think is very important. I'm not just going to give you a plan and a list of things to do or not do. I'm going to check in with you. I want to know what seems overwhelming, what feels doable, and what doesn't. This isn't about extremes. This isn't about shaming you if you just don't do what I say to do or whatever. Like that's not what I do. This is not one size fits all. Everybody is so unique and different depending on your season and stage of life. So I want to provide you with tools that empower you to get answers for yourself, for what you can implement and what's going to make you feel whole and well. So I keep saying so. Sorry about that. I'll stop saying so. If you are ready to stop guessing and start understanding your gut, you can work with me. My website is erinbkerry.com. You can email me at erinkerrycoaching@gmail.com. And Kerry is Kerry, not with a C, it's with a K. I would be so honored to support you in your journey. Your gut is speaking to you every single day through your digestion, through your cravings. Didn't even get to talk about that today. Through your skin, through your mood, through your immunity, and even through your energy. So the question is, are we listening to our gut? Are you listening to your gut? What is your gut having to say about your state of stress and your well being? That is something for you to dig into on your own. But I hope this was helpful. Let me know. Reach out to me with any questions that you have. And I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again.